Good morning, family. It's time for Bowtie Chronicles. It's Dr. Dez here with you. Today we're going to talk about a condition called hyperopia. And hyperopia is simply being farsighted. That's how it's commonly known. It's a case where, medically termed, it's a vision condition in which distant objects are usually seen clearer than those things that are up close to you. And sometimes it appears that we can see those things that are far away much better than we can see those things that are right there in our faces. And naturally speaking, sometimes when we establish goals for ourselves, they're so far in the future until they are right there. You know, they're there and I can do all those things that I need to do to prepare myself for that opportunity. But there are opportunities right in front of us that we sometimes miss out on. And this is something that's taken from my book, Seeing It. If you can't see it before you see it, you may never see it. It's brought to you by Leadership That Delivers, and it's Dr. Dez. I'm right here with you, and it's time for Bowtie Chronicles. So, just a little experience that I had. I went to Vanderbilt University and I got my master's in theological studies. And at the time that I graduated, my family and I were really concerned about what we were going to do employment-wise and what our next opportunity would look like. So I recall going to an interview in Michigan, flying back for an interview, and the interview went really well. But then I got back home. Renee picked me up at the airport, and when she picked me up, she told me about a revival that we were having at our local church. And while we were there, I went the second night of the revival, and a young lady was there, and she was prophesying, and she brought me up, said that the revival was essentially over, and she said that she had something that she needed to do last night, but she didn't do it, and that was call my wife forward and speak to her. So that night, she actually called me forward, and I'm looking around like I know she's not talking to me. But she called me forward and told me that I would be leading a school. And that was certainly not anything that I had on my mind at that time. You know, I'd gone to school and got my master's in administration, but I really wasn't thinking about leading a school. But that's what she prophesied over me. And sorry about that. And when she called her forward, she came forward and she began to speak to her as well. And so we were excited about it. It was a great prophecy where I would be given an opportunity to lead a school. And that was something that I hadn't really thought about, but it was a great opportunity nonetheless. So the next day or day or so, I got a call from a good friend of mine, Dave Lewis, and asked just what was I doing. And I said we were looking for a job opportunity, and he then told me about an opportunity in Bridgeport schools. And so the next day after that, I had an opportunity to speak to the principal, who said, yep, we're interested in you. Send us your resume. Heard a lot of things about you. And then the very next week, I ended up flying back to Michigan. And no, we didn't fly back. We didn't have any money. We were broke at the time, and we were trying to scramble, get our monies together so we can just get back to Michigan for this interview. So we actually got a couple dollars together. We rented a van and drove back to Michigan, and I attended the interview. And while in the interview, things went very, very well. It was surprising. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a leader of people, but I didn't really know how God was going to position me so that I could lead people in making their lives better and making that kind of change. So during the course of the interview, things went very well, and she asked if we would be in a position to stay and go into second interviews. And this was like on a Thursday, and we rented this van, and monies were tight. So, I just jumped out on faith and said, yep, I'll be here for the interview next week. So we stayed around, went to the interview on the following week, and again, things went wonderfully well in the interview. And I recall just before finishing the interview, a gentleman from the Human Resources Department came in and said, well, did you offer him the job? And I'm looking like, what? Really surprised. And she said, no, we've got one more candidate. She then told me about the school, which wasn't very far away. So I drove to the school, and she said she would meet me there momentarily. So I drove to the school and just started walking around the school and praying and laying hands on things and anointing lockers and all that kind of stuff. So I made it all the way through the school, and I went back to the front door where she met me. And she said, well, it looks like you've been here for a while. What do you think about our school? I said, I think it's a great place to be. I could see myself working here. And again, that's me seeing things closer now that I've had the opportunity to interview for the position. I've had the opportunity to walk around the building. But I never again saw myself working in that capacity until the opportunity was really right there in my face. So she took me into her office, and we sat for a few moments, and she asked me a couple more questions about myself, and she said, I'm not going to take any more of your time. We want to offer you this job opportunity. And that was really just God speaking, because prior to that time, we were actually on food stamps. I remember being in Nashville and driving up and just applying for the food stamps, and that was a crazy experience. But we'll save that for another day as well. But she offered me the job, and I was so excited because I was literally on food stamps in that moment, and then couldn't see what was going to happen in my future, but I knew an opportunity was right there in front of me. So she offered me the job right then, and that changed my income in that very moment to a point where I could provide for my family. We had a suitable living. And we knew that we would be able to work things out because of God's goodness and God's grace. The reason that I share all of that is because sometimes we'll have goals, we'll have aspirations, we'll have those things that we've always wanted to do in our lives. But as God prepares us step by step, and we take our journey step by step, take each moment seriously, because you never really know what opportunities lie around the corner for you. So in preparing for something that I didn't know was going to happen, it was important that not only could I see things that are in the distant, but not be afraid of those things that were being presented to me within the moment. Each and every one of us will have those clear moments of clarity when God speaks to us or opportunities are presenting themselves. And for us, it's important that you take every day seriously, because you never know when that opportunity is going to be presented to you. And if you're not prepared for the opportunity, it'll pass you by. One of the things that my Sands actually used to say to us is that, you got to be prepared for the moment. And being prepared for the moment means that you can't limit your sight to those things that are in the distant, but you've got to take advantage of the opportunities that are right there in front of you. If you've been preparing yourself for opportunities to make a change in your life, if you've been preparing yourself for opportunities for a career, if you've been preparing yourself for change, take advantage of the moments, because in those moments, that's when real change takes place. Never be afraid to pursue your dreams, because that's what it's all about. We're dream makers, and because we make dreams, we also make dreams possible. So once again, thanks. I appreciate you tuning in to the Bowtie Chronicles. This is just a little piece from my book, Seeing It. If you can't see it before you see it, you may never see it. God bless you. I hope you have a great day.